is Radio Prague International, coming to you from the Czech capital.
Hello and welcome to Radio Prague International. I'm Sierra Krieger-Wolf and you're listening to Czechia in 30 Minutes, the show where we give you a rundown of what's recently been happening in the country in just half an hour. Coming up on today's show, the Metronome Music Festival celebrates its 10th year at a new venue. More than 250 years of weather data from Prague's Clementinum Observatory, and the Auschwitz Museum unveils Alfred Kantor's extraordinary Holocaust sketchbook. All that and more, but first the news with Ruth Frankova.
News.
Interior Minister Lubomír Metnar says he will dismiss the head of the State Institute for Nuclear, Chemical and Biological Protection over the training of Chinese military experts at the facility. Speaking to Deník N on Thursday, he described the cooperation as a security risk. According to the news site, experts from a military academy in Beijing have been attending courses at the institute near Příbram for the past 3 years. A training program held in May reportedly cost almost 800,000 crowns, with another planned for the autumn. Institute director Tomáš Droba told Deník N that the Chinese side had requested the training and that the cooperation benefited Czech research. Metnar said he wanted to discuss the matter with the intelligence services and determine what information the visitors may have obtained. The Czech government supports the European Commission's proposed new package of sanctions against Russia. Deputy Prime Minister Karel Havlíček told the Senate ahead of next week's European Council meeting. The measures target Russia's energy and banking sectors, the so-called shadow fleet used to circumvent oil sanctions, and imports of Russian and Belarusian fish. The package would also add more than 30 Russian banks to the sanctions list and, for the first time, ban entry into the EU for anyone who has served in the Russian military since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Hundreds of people gathered at the Church of Saints Cyril and Methodius in Prague on Thursday to commemorate 7 Czechoslovak paratroopers involved in the assassination of Nazi leader Reinhard Heydrich. Politicians, veterans and members of the public took part in the ceremony, which marked 84 years since the men's deaths. The paratroopers, including Jan Kubiš and Josef Gabčík of Operation Anthropoid, carried out the attack on Heydrich on the 27th of May 1942. The acting Reich protector of Bohemia and Moravia died from his injuries a week later. Following the assassination, the Nazis launched brutal reprisals, including the destruction of Lidice and Ležáky. The paratroopers hid in the church crypt before being discovered by the Gestapo and killed after a lengthy battle. The Czech crown jewels will be on display in Prague Castle's Vladislav Hall from September 18 to 28, the presidential office announced on Thursday. The exhibition, titled Habsburgs 500, will be open to the public free of charge. The jewels will be ceremonially removed from the crown chamber in St. Vitus Cathedral on the 14th of September by the 7 key holders. School groups will have priority access during the following 3 days before the exhibition opens to the public. President Petr Pavel introduced the tradition of annual displays in 2024. Last year's exhibition attracted more than 51,000 visitors. This year's display will trace the jewels' journey from Karlstein Castle to Vienna during the 30 Years' War and their return to Prague in 1791. And finally, a quick look at the weather. Friday will be mostly sunny and very hot, with temperatures climbing to between 30 and 35 degrees Celsius. Isolated showers or thunderstorms are possible in the mountains. I'm Ruth Frankova, and that's the end of the news.
That was the news, and we turn now to current affairs. One of the country's biggest music festivals, Metronome, begins in Prague on Friday. This year's headliners, Nick Cave, Sting, and Tom Odell, will be familiar to Czech audiences, though the 10th year anniversary edition of this event is set to take place at a new venue. Ian Willoughby spoke to Metronome's founder, David Gajdečka.
Previously, Metronome was at the Výstaviště exhibition grounds in Prague. Now it's moving to Letňany. Why are you guys moving out to Letňany?
We were invited by Live Nation, which is a global concert promoting company, to the area where they do these big concerts every summer. And logistically and also by kind of friendliness to the audience, it's much easier to organize the festival over there than at Výstaviště, the expo area.
What about scale? Will it be bigger than in previous years?
It will be larger. We have a bigger space. We have a better transportation. It's just 100 meters from the stop of metro underground stop Letňany. And it seems that our cooperation with Live Nation sells more tickets than we were used to sell.
There are 3 stages at the festival, the Metronome stage, the Live Nation stage and the Cupra Pulse stage. What are the concepts of all 3 of those?
Well, the main stage is the headlining act stage. On Friday we have younger artists, Orville Peck, Jade or Tom Odell. On Saturday we have Nick Cave, Manic Street Preachers, Jude Line. It's maybe more kind of like heritage or legendary artists. And on Sunday we close the festival with Razorlight of Monsters and Men from Iceland, and Stink will be the final show. Then we have the Live Nation stage. I think it's the trendy artists, like it's Rose Grey, Chesile, Lee Kelly, but also Slowdive, Balu Brigada, Flaming Lips, and Cupra Pool stage, that's electronic stage. And we have great electronic acts. Every night it will be closed by Dominic Geringer, which we chose with our partner from the local scene, the son of the cult DJ Orbit. And then we have Anki, Matt 213 with Gufrau, kind of famous project. Cobra is coming from Sweden, and Ella Minus also will be playing this electronic stage.
A couple of your headliners were there before at Metronome. Sting was there in 2017, Nick Cave a few years ago. Does it help to have a kind of previous connection with these big artists when you are making bookings for the festival?
Well, we're celebrating 10th anniversary since we started with Metronome, and both Sting and Nick Cave liked the idea to come back again. And what I think helped, they liked the whole production, and Nick Cave is very fond of Metronome audience, so if someone that's coming to Metronome every year hears it, they're responsible for Nick Cave's decision.
What did Nick Cave tell you? What did he say about the festival?
Well, last time after the show, he said, "What an audience. Where did you find these people? It was such a joy to perform for them." He really liked the crowd.
And David, of all the artists who are playing this year, who are you personally most looking forward to seeing?
Sometimes I'm looking forward to Monday 22nd when all of that will be over. But I think like Flaming Lips will be cool. And it's not maybe my cup of tea, but Lee Kelly is coming for the first time to Prague. So that will be something that we can hear for the first time. And she's a great Swedish artist. So I'm looking forward to her.
Metronome's founder, David Gajdečka, talking there to my colleague Ian Willoughby. With summer approaching and the climate crisis progressing, it is likely that new temperature records will once again be recorded at Prague's Clementinum weather station, with more than 250 years old tradition. Nevertheless, scientists point out that data collected there should be interpreted with caution. Romana Grajcerova has more.
Encountering the whims of the weather is a universal experience. It is therefore no surprise that the weather is one of the most common conversation starters and a frequent topic of everyday small talk. However, in order not only to discuss subjective impressions of the weather, but also to study it in a more objective and systematic way, people had to develop instruments that would enable accurate and consistent observations. In the Czech lands, the first systematic meteorological measurement started as early as in the 18th century in the former Jesuit college in Prague, known as the Clementinum.
Continuous measurements have been carried out here since 1775, but the origins of observation at this site go back even further, as scientists first had to refine the instruments used to measure temperature and determine the exact location where regular measurements should be taken.
Explains Ilona Zuzková, head of the Department of Meteorology and Climatology at the Czech Hydrometeorological Institute. Meteorological measurements and observations at the Clementinum were first initiated in 1752 by Joseph Stepling, the first director and founder of the Clementinum Observatory. He measured temperature, air pressure, and precipitation, and in a publication from the same year he explained the scientific and practical importance of regular, long-term observations. Stepling's student and later successor, Antonín Strnad, began conducting truly regular and systematic measurements in 1775, as documented in his journals, to make it possible to compare Prague's results with those from meteorological stations elsewhere in the world. Observations were standardized to take place at the same time each day.
Using the specific 3 observation times, 7 a.m., 2 p.m. and 9 p.m., with the evening measurement counted twice, the values are added together and divided by 4 to calculate the average daily temperature. This method is still used today.
The first measurements took place in the astronomical tower in the center of the Clementinum complex. However, since 1780, the observations have been moved to an annex of the southern wing, where they continue to this day.
The issue of solar influence was addressed, and that is crucial in climatology. Measurements must be sheltered, meaning the instrument is placed inside a kind of enclosure so that it is protected from radiation while still allowing air to circulate.
Despite relocating the measuring equipment, the station still does not meet current placement standards, which recommend measurements to be taken approximately 2 meters above the ground, ideally above cut grass.
V Clementinu se tak začalo měřit v roce 1752 ve 4. patře.
In Clementinum, measurements began on the 4th floor of the astronomical tower, 39 meters above the courtyard. Today, measurements are taken on the 1st floor of the building behind the church, about 6.5 meters above the ground. You will therefore not find standard measuring conditions in Clementinum.
Měří právě v prvním patře budovy za kostelem asi 6,5 metru nad zemí.
Says Martin Novák from the Czech Hydrometeorological Institute in Ústí nad Labem. Prague is often associated with various temperature records that were measured at the Clementinum station, since its long observation series makes it possible to compare data spanning more than 250 years. However, due to its unsuitable location, these data cannot be considered fully accurate.
Drtivá většina těch stanic, které mají hodně dlouhé řady, jsou vlastně stanice městské, protože většinou vznikaly při...
The vast majority of stations with long measurement series are located in cities because they were established at universities. That is why we must also interpret rising average temperatures recorded by these stations with caution. To a significant extent, they are influenced by the expanding urban development.
Strojů, zanedbání kalibrací a tím pádem byla ovlivněna i přesnost měření.
For this reason, meteorologists considered whether to adjust the measurements to international standards, but decided to continue under the same non-standard conditions so that the long-term data series would remain continuous.
Je třeba říct, že tyto dlouhé řady jsou pro meteorologii něčí.
Long data series are something meteorologists could describe as family treasure. In our case, this applies precisely to the Clementinum series, and that is why it is important to continue it.
Velmi dobré v té řadě pokračovat a prodlužovat ji dál.
Thank you, Romana Grajcedova, for that report. And with that, it's now time for today's feature. Prague-born artist Alfred Kantor survived Terezín, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and a death march before documenting his experiences in a remarkable illustrated diary. Recently acquired by the Auschwitz Museum, the album contains 127 drawings, watercolors, and written recollections, and is considered one of the most important artistic testimonies created by a Holocaust survivor. Alex Rosenzweig spoke with Agnieszka Śradzka, an art historian at the museum, and first asked her why the work is so significant.
This is a unique, extraordinary graphic album. Contains 127 watercolors, paintings with description, created by Alfred Kantor, Jew from Czech artist, dedicated to his experiences in all the camps in which he was, from Theresienstadt by Auschwitz to Schwarzheide, and this is a very unique album diary, presented all path of a one man by all the concentration camps, from the beginning to the end, from the order of deportation to his liberation in May 1945.
Was there any discussion for the museum to acquire this? Did the institution buy it, or how did it work with the family?
The lady who represents the family of Kantor, his children, wrote a letter to our museum that the family are looking for a safe place for this album. And I wrote to her that our museum is very interested in this album, in this diary, and that we think that so important document should be here to speak aloud for over the world. And after discussions with family, son and daughter of Alfred Kantor said that yes, this is a proper place for this album. And here are people who taking care of this album, elaborated this, preserved this for the next generations, and decided to pass on this unusual diary to the Auschwitz Museum.
Is it right here in the box we see here?
Yes, this is in the box, and we can look at it.
Putting some gloves on now.
Yes, we need gloves because it's very fragile. So you can see that this is a quite big book, big album. This is one of the, or I think I could say this is the richest and the widest artistic album connected with paintings dedicated to the experiences of one prisoner, which we have in our collection. And I think that this is probably the richest artistic album connected with the Holocaust in all the world. Yes.
It starts with Theresienstadt. Actually, there is a picture as well. Theresienstadt Graben.
Yes. It starts in December 1941 when Alfred Kantor was sent to Terezin. He was in this first group of young men who were sent to Terezin to build a new model ghetto. So he was there from the beginning, and he built this ghetto.
It's very colorful as well.
Yes, this is very colorful, very detailed. I think he is marvel of remarkable accuracy. Paintings are very detailed. And this is not only artwork, but also very important historical document, because we can see more details than we have in other drawings related with similar subjects. Yes.
We can see some card sent after receipt of food package with the name Alfred Kantor from Hans Kantor, and on the drawings we can recognize the Kaserne in Theresienstadt from these particular windows.
Yes, exactly. We can recognize the historical places, the historical buildings. We can see what was happened in particular places of the ghetto, and each painting is completed by description created by Alfred Kantor. So we have a picture and also words.
It's all in English,
yes.
And these drawings could not be all saved during this deportation. What was the process? How did he manage to create all this?
Alfred Kantor began drawing in Terezin, but when he was sent to Auschwitz, he managed to find also a scrap of papers, pencils, and continued drawing. After the war, he said his son that the drawing helped him survive the camps because he could look on the horror of Auschwitz and other concentration camps from the role of observator, not a victim. So we know from his interviews and memoirs when he created in the camps. He created in Terezin, in Auschwitz and in Schwarzheide. But the most of these drawings were destroyed. He destroyed these drawings because he was afraid to keep it because it was very dangerous materials. But some of these drawings he sheltered.
He was hiding it?
Yes, and after the war, he managed to find some of these drawings. For example, drawings from Schwarzheide was saved by his friend, also prisoner, and drawings from Terezin was found after the liberation because Alfred Kantor found himself again in Terezin. He was sent to Terezin again in March of Death on the end of the war, and there in Terezin I think he also found some of his drawings. But of course the most of them were destroyed, were lost. But after the liberation, directly after the liberation, Alfred Kantor started to reconstruct these drawings. Some from the sketches created in the camp, but the most of them from his memory. And he said also that the fact that he created these drawings in the camp, it was easier to him to remember these events. Yes, so these drawings made a trace in his memory, and also due to the fact that he recreated these drawings after the liberation in 1945, helped him that he could create these events in fresh, when the memory was very fresh. That's why these drawings are so detailed.
Alfred Kantor was in the so-called family camp. It was special treatment. It was the Terezin transport where the prisoners could stay with their families and they had civil clothes on. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. The family camp for Jews from Theresienstadt was a special role. Yes, some kind of propaganda role, and mothers, fathers, and children were put together there. Alfred Kantor described not only in drawings, but also in words, how his life and life of Jews from Terezin looked like in Birkenau. So this is very precious. We haven't images like this before. You know that we have very little photos from this period, from this place, because it was forbidden even for SS men to take private pictures on the area of the camp. Everything was a mystery, so we almost haven't the real pictures depicted real life of prisoners in Birkenau. So that's why this album and drawings in this album are so important for us and for historians, for researchers, but all people who wanted to see the real life of prisoners in Birkenau. Almost all Jews from this sector, family camp, were gassed, were murdered in the gas chambers. So this is a miracle that Alfred Kantor survived. He was a young man with a big ability to work. So the Nazi Germans sent him with a group of men to the camp to Schwarzheide, and very short after this event, the Jews from the family camp were murdered in the gas chambers.
Oh, there is a map of the death march.
Yes, from Schwarzheide to Litomierzyce and Terezin, and then he go to Prague.
And he describes, it's quite precise, what part he did by foot, train or car, and mass graves on the way. Unbelievable.
Yes, this is unbelievable. We are so glad that the family of Alfred Kantor decided to pass on this album to our museum, and we hope that we can make access of this diary, the information from this diary to all people.
That conversation with art historian Agnieszka Sieradzka has brought us to the end of this half-hour broadcast from Prague. Thank you all for tuning in, and remember you'll find these stories and more at radio.cz. Should you like to contact us, our email address is english@radio.cz, and you can follow Radio Prague on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We're always happy to hear from you. I'm Sierra Krieger-Wolf, and have a beautiful rest of your day.